For demonstration purposes, VMware Workstation 11 is being used to create a Windows 7 install. I'm going to use Windows 7 Professional with Service Pack 1 64-bit, and it's going to be the ISO file. I'm going to install this manually. Set some CPU, some RAM, and we're not going to do any network connection at this point, and some hard drive space. We're going to add the ISO file, the ISO image, to our DVD drive, and we're going to boot to that drive. We're going to use the defaults as shown. Install now, and we're going to do a custom install. Click accept the terms, do a custom advanced install. We only have one drive right now, so we'll click next, and it's going to copy through and install. It's going to reboot a few times. Okay, so at this screen we type in our initial username and we give the computer a name. So I'm going to use user for the username and PC for the computer name. I'm not going to set a password yet. I'm going to uncheck the automatically activate. I'm going to use the default time zone, and it's going to bring us to our desktop. The first thing we want to do is change the screen resolution to something larger so that we can actually work with all the elements on our screen. And after having done that, we also may want to change the DPI, the dots per inch scaling on our screen as well, to something a little bit higher than the default, perhaps at 125% or higher. And in order for that to take effect, we have to log off and log back on. As we log back on, you see that the icons are a lot larger than they used to be. Now we want to disable UAC, which is user access control. We click start, type run RUN. At the run box, we type msconfig, that's msconfig, click OK. Go up to the Tools tab, click Change UAC, click Launch, and we disable it completely, and then click OK, and click Yes at the prompt, and click OK again. Now we have to restart in order for this to take effect. Okay, we're back from the restart, and now we want to go to System Properties to make some configuration changes. And in order to do that, we'll go down to the Start button, right click on Computer, click on Properties, and click on Advanced. And here, we'll start with the Computer Name tab. This is where you can name your computer. In the Hardware tab, click on the Device Manager. This opens up the Device Manager. You can go to View and show all hidden devices. And on the hard drive, we can right click on that, go to Properties. We can go to the Volumes tab and click Populate, and it will show what kind of hard drive that we have installed. So right now we have a MBR installed. If you're using UEFI, it would show as GPT. No, we don't want to install any driver software from Windows Update. On the Advanced tab, click on Performance Options. We want to adjust for best performance, click Apply, and you'll see everything changed. On the virtual memory, we want to uncheck that and set to no paging file. Click Set, click Accept, click OK. Here we can't turn off dep, but we'll do that in some other step. On startup and recovery, we want to uncheck everything, and we don't want it to make any kernel dumps of any sort. In the System Protection tab, we're going to completely turn off System Restore. On the Remote tab, we're going to not allow any kind of remote assistance or remote desktop or remote connections of any sort. Now we're going to start system configuration, otherwise known as msconfig. That's msconfig. And on the Services tab, we're going to take a look at what we have activated and compare it to this list. We want to immediately disable Windows Update even before we connect to the network. We want to disable Windows Defender, and we want to disable IP Helper, which is actually used for IP version 6, and we don't need any of that. We're not going to restart at this point just yet. Now we're going to go back, and on the Tools tab, we're going to click on About Windows and Launch. This starts WinVer, and it'll tell us which version of the operating system we have. We're going to go back and click on Action Center and Launch. And here we're going to change Action Center to tell it not to advise us of anything. We're going to uncheck all the boxes and click OK. I'm going to go back and make sure we don't send any kind of customer experience to Microsoft. And we don't want to check for solutions. and we also don't want Windows updates to ever give us any kind of updates or to check for any kind of updates, and we don't want to allow anyone to be able to install any updates. We're done with msconfig. Now we're going to go to services.msc. So we go to start run and we type in services.msc, click OK. Make sure you're on the extended tab so you see all the options here. And once again, we're going to sort by name, and we want to scroll down. We want to start by disabling Windows Update. Right click on it and click stop. We want to stop it right now, and then right click again, go to properties, and in the startup tab, the drop down box, select disabled and click OK. We also want to disable IP helper and Windows Defender. So as you can see, there's actually only a very short list of things that you actually need. Everything else can be set to disabled and turned off. Now we're going to start the group policy editor by going to start run. We're going to type in gpedit.msc, gpedit.msc. I'm going to start this up. And under computer configuration, expand administrative templates, and under all options, under section T, we want to turn off autoplay for all drives. Click enabled. Make sure all drives are selected, and this turns it off. Click apply and then click OK. And we want to do the same thing for turn off autoplay for non-volume devices. Now we want to go up to under system, the internet communication management, internet communication settings. We want to turn off access to all Windows updates. We want to click enable, and by clicking enable, it actually turns it off. And we want to do the same thing for turn off automatic root certificate updates. And in fact, we want to enable everything, which means that we will turn off all the options here. Now we want to go back up under computer configuration. We want to expand and go to security options, local policies, and security options. And we want to check some of the security options in here to make sure that they're configured correctly. We want to make sure do not store LAN manager hash value on next password change is set to enabled. And we want to set send NTLM v2 response only, refuse LM and NTLM for the LAN manager authentication level. Now we're going to go to start run. We're going to type in cmd to start the command prompt, which is a DOS black box. We're going to turn off Windows system hibernation by typing in power config-h off. Now we want to turn off DEP, which is DEP, which stands for Data Execution Prevention. We do that by typing bcd edit -set NX always off. Also some of the other options we want to type in as well. This requires a restart to take effect. Here we're going to disable and turn off IP version 6 on our machine, and these are the following commands to type in. Of course, we don't even have network drivers installed at this point, but it's good to go ahead and get this set. Now we're going to use the Windows system registry to make some configuration changes. We go to start run, we type in regedit, that's regedit, click OK. And here are the following changes that we want to make. This is just a short sample. There's probably a lot more changes that you would want to make. For this next step, we have to enable Windows Modular Installer before we can make any changes. Previously, I had set this to be disabled. So we want to go here, click Windows Modules Installer, right click, go to Properties. Instead of disabled, we'll set it temporarily to manual for now, and then right click and start it. So now that it's started, we want to go to Start, Run. We'll type in appwiz.cpl, that's appwiz.cpl. Click OK. This starts the programs and features. We want to click on Install Updates to see all the updates we've installed, and then we'll click on Turn Windows Features on or off, and we want to deselect almost everything here. We want to uninstall Internet Explorer. We want to uninstall tablet PC components. We want to strip Windows of the Windows Gadget platform, Windows Search, XPS, and all the other useless stuff. We're going to click OK. It's gonna take a moment. It's gonna require a restart of the computer, and it's gonna, well, when it restarts, it's gonna say it's gonna configure Windows Futures, and it may take a while. So now that we're back, we want to go back to services and disable what we had earlier turned on. So we're going to right click on modules installer, stop it, and then right click on it again, go to properties and set the startup type from manual to disabled. Even though we no longer have Internet Explorer installed on our machines, there are some internet options we can still change. So we're going to type inetcpl.cpl, click OK. This starts internet properties. Even though we do not have Internet Explorer, there's still some options here left over that we can check and change and configure to make it more secure. As well, if you'll see, now that we can go back to the dep tab, you'll see it's completely turned off now. You'll see down here it says test mode Windows 7. That means driver signing has been turned off, and that's what we want. Now we go to start run, type in compmgmt.msc. This stands for computer management. In here we can see under local users and groups, there's a users section and there's a groups section. By default, your user account should be in the administrators group so that you have full rights, and we are. You can also click on users, click on your user account. In the member of, you'll see we have admin rights. The administrator, the default administrator profile is disabled, and so is the default guest profile. For security best practice, you should probably reset these passwords to, you should set these passwords yourself, and you can also rename the default administrator and default guest profiles to some other username. We can also go to the control panel. Under categories, set to small icons to show the classic control panel, and click on user accounts. We can do things such as create a password, and I'm just gonna set this to password, and you have to create a hint for your password. Once you've created your password, you can also do other things such as change your picture from the default to some other picture that you'd like, and we'll go ahead and restart the machine. When it comes back up, it's going to prompt us for a password in order to log back into our account. Now we have to enter our password. Once we're logged in, if you don't want to have to enter your initial password every time, go to Start Run, type in Control space user passwords 2, click OK, uncheck that right there, click Apply. It's going to ask you to re-enter your password, so go ahead and enter your password again, click OK again, and now we'll restart a computer one more time, and when it comes back up you'll see that no password is needed. Click Start Run, type MMC, that stands for Microsoft Management Console. We're going to add a snap-in. We're going to add the certificates snap-in, select My Computer Account, click OK, finish, and this basically lets us check on all of the certificates on our computer. And you should go through this list, and if you see anything that you don't trust, you should either remove or delete it. Now, prior to doing so, if you're afraid of making any mistakes, what you can do is you can export all of these certificates to a safe location, and once you've backed them up and exported them, you see here it requires a password. Later on, if you wish, you can re-import these certificates. Again, it requires that same password. Here we're going to do some cleanup. Namely, we're going to disable the recycle bin. So right click on the recycle bin icon, go to properties, and totally disable it. Here we want to set our Windows File Explorer views. We can do that by navigating to a certain path, such as C, Windows System 32. We want to show all details. We want to go up to Organize. In Folder Options, under the View tab, we want to make sure that we show hidden files, folders, and drives. We want to uncheck Hide Empty Drives. We want to uncheck Hide Extensions, uncheck Protected Operating System Files, and click OK. Click Apply to all folders, click OK, and click OK again. And as you'll see now, we can see everything. Now we want to customize our Start menu. Right click on the taskbar and click on Properties. We want to use small icons, click Apply. We want to never combine our taskbar buttons, click Apply. Click on Customize in the notification area, and we want it to always show all icons on the taskbar, and we want to disable the Action Center notification. On the Start menu tab, we can customize what we want to see. We can go down this list and just pick and choose which ones we want to see and which ones we don't. For example, if you don't want to see games or music or your personal, you can set that to don't display this item. Also, you might want to check the run command so that you can access run from start. So for privacy reasons, we want to set that from 10 all the way down to nothing. Click OK. And we want to uncheck those two additional items. Now you see we have access to Windows administrative tools from the start menu. And we can do some further cleanup by erasing all the other junk that we don't need, such as Windows Anytime Update, Windows Update, and anything else that we don't need. Now click on the clock in the lower right hand corner and then click on change date and time, uncheck the notify me, click apply, and then go up to the internet time tab, change options, unselect that, click OK. We should have Windows indexing and Windows search already disabled and turned off, but just for good measure, let's go to the C drive, right click on the C drive, go to properties, uncheck the allow files on this drive to have contents indexed in addition to the file properties. Click continue, ignore all if you get a message or prompt, and let that run. Now we want to adjust our themes. Right click on the desktop, go to personalize, and scroll down and go to Windows Classic, click on Windows Classic, set your desktop background. I just use a black screen, a black image. And you may want to also set a screensaver. I typically use a blank screensaver, set it to about 5 mics, and there's no options to set for this one. Click apply, click OK. Now that we're done with that, we want to go back to services and disable. We want to right click on themes. We want to stop it, and then we want to disable themes now that we have set it to just the way that we want. Now we want to take a look at our power options. We go to the control panel, make sure that it's showing small icons, and click on power options. We want to switch to high performance, change the power plan. We want to customize our plan, change power plan, and in here we want to make certain customizations. For example, we don't want it to turn off our hard drive in 20 minutes, so I just set it to 9999. And we also probably don't want it to selectively suspend our USB, so I set that to disabled. And finally, under lid options, we want to set from shutdown to do nothing, and then under the display, I think by default it turns off the display. We want to make sure that's set to never. There's been a recent security flaw that affects everything from Windows XP all the way up to Windows 10. And while Microsoft has pushed out a critical update, I prefer to take care of this myself. So the affected file is atmfd.dll and C Windows System 32, and it's a open type Adobe type manager. We want to either rename the file or delete the file, but in order to do so, we have to take ownership of the file first. So we're going through these steps to take ownership of the file for my user account, and then I'm gonna give myself full rights to the file after I've taken full ownership of it, and this allows me to either rename or delete the file. Now we're going to shut down the machine. Since this is a virtual machine, I'm going to add the network drivers here. I'm going to add the network adapters. If this was an actual physical machine, you would be adding the network drivers at this step. Now you can see that it's installed the Intel Pro 1000 MT network adapters. What we want to do is we want to go to services.msc one more time. And here we want to select the network connections. We want to set it to automatic for now, and then right click and start it up. This allows us now to go to start run and type in ncpa.cpl, click OK. We see our local area connection. There's only one right now. Right click, go to properties. Under IP version 6, we want to uncheck that to disable IP version 6 for this network adapter. And under IP version 4, we want to select IP version 4, click on properties. Just take a look. Everything should be set correctly by default. It should be magically getting the IP address and DNS information, and sharing should be turned off. Click on IP version 4 again, click on configure up there on the top, and this being a virtual driver, it doesn't really have too much options, but if this was a actual machine, anything in here that says IP version 6 we want to turn off. And on the power management tab, we want to turn off, allow the computer to turn this device off to save power or to wake up. Now to confirm we're on the network, go to start run, type in cmd, type in ipconfig, you'll see our IP configuration information and our IP version 4 address. ipconfig all gives more information such as our MAC address and some other more information. We can ping yahoo.com to see that we're on the network. Now we're going to go ahead and install some useful tools. I'm going to copy some tools over to the downloads directory. I'm going to install a program called 7-Zip. It lets you compress and uncompress files. KeePass is for password management. We want to disable KeePass from doing any updates. Mozilla Backup is a third-party tool that lets you back up your Mozilla Firefox configuration options. Notepad++, as far as version 6.5.3, is a good alternative to Microsoft's Notepad. We don't want it to do any updates. WinCDEMU, as far as 3.6, lets you mount ISO files as if you had it in a CD drive. And lastly, we're going to install TrueCrypt 7.1 Alpha. Don't create any system restore points. This is a specialized version of a host file that we just extracted using 7-zip. I'm going to copy the host file to Windows, System, 32, Drivers, etc directory. We're going to paste and overwrite the host file in there. We're going to edit with Notepad++ to see the contents. And this host file blocks most of all ads and advertisement kind of sites on the internet. And you can also add custom entries to block sites that you don't like or that you do not want to use for privacy reasons. So right now we're blocking Google and Facebook and Twitter. We'll save changes and exit. And to confirm, what we can do is go to Start, Command Prompt, ipconfig flush DNS to refresh after we made our host file entry changes. You do an ipconfig /flush DNS or ipconfig /release followed by ipconfig /renew. ipconfig to see that we're connected right now. We'll ping Yahoo, a site that we did not block, and we'll see that it goes through. When we try to ping Google, we'll see that ping cannot find google.com. Same for Facebook, because we blocked it using our host file entries. When we ping nsa.gov, everything works fine. Now we'll encrypt our hard disk using TrueCrypt. Go up to System, Encrypt System Partition /drive, do a normal encryption, encrypt the entire hard drive, encrypt host protected areas. Usually select single boot. Encryption algorithm, we're going to use the most secure one, Serpent Twofish AES. Say yes, say OK. Type a very long and secure and random password. I just used 123 as a test. Move your mouse around randomly for about a good 5 mics. I'm gonna just do it real quick here. And browse, it's gonna ask you to create a recovery disk. I'm gonna create an ISO file. And it wants you to burn it to a disk, and it's gonna do a verification. I'm not going to burn anything to a disk. I'm going to go to where I had the ISO file. I'm going to use WinCDEMU that we just previously installed. I'm going to mount it as a virtual drive to a virtual disk. You'll see there it mounts as a virtual drive on the V drive. And I'm going to click Next. TrueCrypt thinks it's verified. Wipe mode. Usually you don't need to do anything here. Test. Going to restart the machine. Here I'm using the wrong password and it's not taking it. There. And then pretest complete, click encrypt, and depending on your hard drive, it may take a while. Since we removed Internet Explorer, we don't actually have a browser, so now we're going to go install Firefox. We're going to use Firefox version 28.0, but before we do anything, let's turn off the network. Make sure you're disconnected from the internet before installing Firefox. Otherwise, it's going to try to update itself almost immediately. Firefox version 28.0, we're going to do a custom install. We're not going to install the maintenance service, otherwise it's going to try to do an update immediately. And we're going to use it as our default browser since we don't have any other browsers. We're not going to launch it. Uncheck launch Firefox. After you've installed it, we want to go to program files, x86 Mozilla Firefox folder. We want to delete the maintenance service, we want to delete the crash reporter, and we want to delete the option for it to update itself. It's still going to try to update itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it while disconnected to the internet, and it won't be able to do any updates, obviously. The reason we start it is because by starting Firefox for the first time after installing it, you force it to create a profile. After we've created a initial Firefox profile, we can then use the Mozilla backup tool, the third-party Moz backup tool that we previously installed, and we can restore a custom profile that I made. So we're going to select that custom profile, we're going to restore it, so it's going to overwrite everything on this computer's Firefox with the previous one. Mozilla Firefox version 28.0 is the last version of Firefox before they went over to the dark side and became like all out evil. So that's the version I would recommend you stick with. Use AdBlock Plus and make sure you block all ads on the internet. Use HTTPS everywhere, and use NoScript to block all scripts that you don't approve. This keeps you safe on the web. Since email is not really secure, we should be using PGP. A good tool to use is GPG for Win version 2.2.1. When installing this, make sure GPA is selected. Version 2.2.1 is the last version that would allow you to easily create PGP keys with 8,192 bits of security or higher in order for it to be most secure. After installing, go ahead and run GPA and create a fake account first. If we don't do this when we use the command line to generate a batch script, we're going to have issues. Okay, let's open up a command prompt. I'm going to use KeePass to create the long and random password for the PGP key generation. If I was doing this for real, you would want to up the number of key transformation rounds to keep your KeePass database more secure. It's always a good idea to collect more entropy. You move the mouse around and type randomly on the keyboard to create a more secure password. I forgot that this PGP application does not allow passwords of such enormous length. So I'm going to redo this with only 100 character password. I think I'm getting these alerts because I'm doing this in a VMware virtual machine. Um, you should not see these if you're doing this on the real box. Okay, the key is successfully created and marked as ultimately trusted. Here we're going to export the keys to a local location on the hard drive. And I'm going to upload this to MIT's PGP public key server. Now I'm going to do a search for myself. And here we are, 8,192 bits of security. So last but not least, Windows 7 has a so-called God mode, which if you copy that and you go on the desktop, create a new folder and paste that exactly as is, it'll create a kind of like a shortcut to almost everything that you would want to check or configure or do on your machine. It's a huge long list. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna go ahead and shut down the machine. And since this is a virtual image, I'm gonna take a snapshot and create a clone. So what you can do is if you create a virtual machine like this, you can always use it to surf the web, and then if someone tries to hack into your machine, you just revert to the previous snapshot. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please remember to never use Windows 8 or Windows 10. Always use Windows 7 or use Linux. Goodbye.